on to Bit News. Let's look at Bitcoin in Africa. There's huge potential there. You know, worldwide, nearly 326 million people do not have access to bank accounts. That's an extraordinary figure when you think about it. It represents 80% of the adult population. This denies, that's not worldwide, that's just in Africa, isn't it? This denies countless people financial freedom in what was once called the Dark Continent, because little was known about it and it was a mysterious place. So how will this affect the growth of Bitcoin there? Well, it's primarily the remittance market that's going to do it. Bureaucracy in Africa makes sending and receiving money to and from loved ones extremely difficult. Many countries in this region have the most expensive bank transfer rates in the world. I think it's 10 to 19%, I seem to recall. Banks and other institutions make roughly $4 billion a year from international transfers to Africa. $4 billion a year. Cryptocurrency offers new services that use a digital currency for the purpose of sending money from one point to another. Because after all, with Bitcoin, what do you need? You need an internet connection and ideally a smartphone. Many places, of course, are still underserved by telephone companies, but that's changing fast. And the price of smartphones is, of course, getting cheaper and cheaper. And who drives this technology? Millennials. Back to millennials? Did I say millennials? Can't speak today. Who drives, I'll start again. Who drives this, forget it. Who drives this technology? Millennials. And Africa has the youngest population in the world. About 250 million people aged 15 to 29 in Africa as of 2010. Current trend indicates that this figure will double. There'll be 500 million people by the year 2045. That's a little ways off, but still, it's growing pretty fast. So remittance needs is providing a major boost for Bitcoin use in Africa. It's also the same, providing growth in Asia and Latin America as well. Apart from anything else, Bitcoin has proven to be the best performing currency in the world in 2016. So we're seeing fantastic adoption in places like South Africa and Nigeria, and I'm sure it's going to happen in other African countries too. Let's go from Africa to Japan. By this summer, Bitcoin will be accepted at more than 260,000 retail stores in Japan. Is that possible? 260,000 retail stores in Japan? That's huge. That's absolutely huge. While most markets have been slow to accept cryptocurrencies, some retailers, I'd say a lot of retailers, are beginning to test the new form of payment. One of the reasons, of course, for opting for cryptocurrency is the relative ease with which transactions can be conducted. Bitcoin allows tourists to make purchases in Japan without having to go through currency exchange rates. It's just Bitcoin. Additionally, if more outlets accepted Bitcoin, more individual consumers would likely be persuaded to get Bitcoin accounts. You know, over 20 million people worldwide now use Bitcoin in one way or another. That sounds like a lot, doesn't it? I guess it's right. 20 million people, that does sound like a lot, but it's growing. I can believe it. It's no longer seen as something to be hoarded. It's used for shopping. As Japanese stores adapt Bitcoin, it's steadily making its way into mainstream financial transactions. It's so many things, isn't it? It's a form of payment. It's a form of savings for people that do want to hoard it and just keep it because the value's going up. But it is also used for shopping. It's a form of currency exchange. Oh, and there's another more important reason that there's so much confidence in Bitcoin in Japan. Japan has the third largest economy in the world. They have recently recognized Bitcoin as a legal method of payment. The law basically says officially that Bitcoin users will not be taxed directly. The implication is not finalized yet, but again, that's a huge deal. Consumption tax is now officially exempted. From China to Japan, other countries, it's now clear that governments are on their way of recognizing Bitcoin as a financial instrument. It'll go a long way to influence other countries as well, ones that are still skeptical about Bitcoin. But for a big economy like Japan to trust Bitcoin as a payment method, like I said, that's huge. If other developed countries like Singapore and Switzerland follow Japan and recognize it as a legal tender, it's going to be a real game changer for Bitcoin. If one country recognizes it as a legal tender, all United Nations countries should eventually follow suit. So that's interesting about Japan. Major moves, major things happening in Japan with Bitcoin. You can learn more about all of these stories and much, much more about Bitcoin, how to get it, where to get it, and why you should get it, and the best way to use it to maximize your profits at bitnews.us. So that's all for today. Thank you.